started exercising instead of smoking.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
I kept on trying, learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
We did it, so can you.
For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
Mo Egger.
Players are allowed to have bad games.
He's a man with a one-track mind.
Good players are allowed to have bad games.
Or should I say, a sports track mind? Mo Egger, today at 3 on ESPN 1530.
All right, McGee, I think the last thing you want to see if you're operating on any kind of a site is somebody who says, quote, we might have a problem here. Alas, that is what went down.
Yeah, it is. So for folks that don't know, and we did an episode about this a year ago, it was in May of 2023 that the North Wilkesboro Speedway was officially resurrected, and it hosted the NASCAR All-Star Race. And when I tell you, I mean, it's the quote from Christmas Vacation, right? I wouldn't be more surprised if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet, than I was when the North Wilkesboro Speedway held races again. It had been shuttered after 1996 and just sat there. So it takes a lot of work. And the guy in charge of resurrecting that racetrack is a man named Steve Swift. And Steve Swift has a big old long fancy title with Speedway Motorsports Incorporated. But what his title basically means is he's the guy in charge of making sure that all the racetracks run properly. Charlotte Motor Speedway, Texas Motor Speedway, Bristol Motor Speedway, and a lot of racetracks, but most recently resurrecting the North Wilkesboro Speedway. And so they somehow pulled this off in 2023.
I thought it was dead, boys. It was not. They brought it back. The hard work of so many people. This puts it right back into grassroots. You want to talk about roots? There's no roots stronger in this sport, the heritage, the history behind it, than North Wilkesboro Speedway.
And then to get ready for their second attempt at the NASCAR All-Star Race, which just happened this past weekend, they're waking the racetrack up after it's been asleep all wintertime long, right? And they put a brand new bit of asphalt on the racetrack, a new surface. The teams are going to come in and test it. And Swift and his crew got the leaf blowers out. They're blasting the chicken grease off the grandstands. And one of the guys up there with those leaf blowers says, "Oh man, I found a hole." And it was a tiny little hole. I mean, it was just, just a couple of feet wide and maybe 6 inches tall underneath the aluminum seating they had pulled out to clean the racetrack and to clean that old concrete grandstand. And when they investigated that crack, what they found was something much, much bigger. And Steve Swift thought, I don't know, we'll run the race.
This strikes me as like a NASCAR version of old boy reaching through that poster in Shawshank and finding the entire tunnel going to freedom. Yeah. What'd they do next, Ryan?
Well, so they get out the flashlights, right? And they get out the smartphones and they start peeling. What I said was like the top of a Spam can, right? They just start peeling away that concrete and they find they have a chasm, a legit cave underneath this old concrete grandstand. And when we had Steve Smith and Marty McGee that very next week, what he told us was, he said, we got in there and realized you could have parked like a Ford F-150 in there. Like this wasn't just a tiny hole. So now they're thinking, all right, this is a sinkhole. And North Wilkesboro Speedway, legendary for drainage issues. In fact, just this past weekend, getting ready for their second NASCAR All-Star race, they had rain on Saturday, and that infield literally filled up like a swimming pool. I mean, everyone was walking around waist deep in water. Tires were just floating around like bathtub toys. It was crazy. So the old girl's never held her water very well. And so the assumption was, all right, some water got underneath this grandstand at some point since the mid-40s, and we have a sinkhole. So they pumped thousands of gallons of water in there to see where the water drained out. Have we created an erosion problem? Is the whole grandstand going to collapse? And that hole filled up like a cement pond, to quote the Beverly Hillbillies. And they're like, wait, this thing is designed to hold stuff. So they had to pump the water back out, and now they're spelunking. Now they're going down in there and seeing what they could find.
Was there ever a real threat as if they found a hole in one part of the racetrack? There might be more other places, and something as catastrophic as, I don't know, condemnation could be what we're dealing with based on these old moonshine pockets.
Yeah, they were terrified. and they didn't. Their first initial reaction was not, "Oh man, this is cool. Did we find some secret cavern?" Their initial reaction was, "Oh damn, is the whole grandstand going to collapse?"
Man, you talk about wisdom. I mean, that's something like out of a movie, is that there's some dude just living in the hills warning you of various riddles and secrets that if you don't avoid them, you're going to be a goner. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, that's it. And so what did he know? And he's like, just don't drive that heavy equipment up this particular part of that hill. Okay, Paul, you got it. But what did that mean? Well, Paul passed away last fall, just a few months after they ran that All-Star race, and never really explained, why. They just heeded his warning and worked around it. And now when they find this hole, they think, well, now what did Paul know that he wasn't telling us? And that's when everybody started thinking, oh, damn, is this a moonshine cave?
How did NASCAR choose to handle this from a news standpoint? Because, we can talk about a lot of things that the league has done in terms of image rehabilitation, whatever that means, and in terms of how they've tried to modernize themselves. Was there any idea that maybe folks didn't need to know this? How did they manage to say, you know what, this is a point of history that we want to highlight without looking like, for lack of a better term, a bunch of hilljacks?
Well, NASCAR has come a long ways in the last decade, but certainly over the last 5 or 6 years of re-embracing who they actually are. And I'll tell you, I worked there. I worked at NASCAR. I worked at NASCAR Images, which is basically NFL films with race cars, right? I worked there in the early 2000s when the boom was happening. Dale Earnhardt had passed away in 2001, and the sport, in an odd way, ended up on this explosive growth curve after that. I mean, you remember, back in the day, it had been successful. It had always grown, but it was always still a niche deal. But in the early to mid 2000s, that thing took off. The sport did, to a level no one could possibly predicted. And there were a lot of people that came to work at NASCAR that had no idea what they were getting into. They didn't appreciate the history of the sport. They wanted to ignore the history of the sport. And I remember I had specific marching orders. My job at NASCAR Images, NASCAR Media Group, was to write the scripts for every TV show. I produced shows, but I primarily wrote scripts, and we would go to HBO, and we go to Showtime, and we go to NBC, and we go to ESPN, and we would pitch television shows. And I was told, never use the word moonshine, ever. And it was heartbreaking because I was sitting, well, why would we do this? Well, we don't want people to think that we're a bunch of hillbillies. I'm like, well, but that's who you are. The NFL knows leather helmets is part of who they were, right? Chuck Bednarik and these guys, that's who they were. And that's how they got to where they are now. And NASCAR decided to cut ties with that. In the last decade, that has changed tremendously. The foundation, the formation of the NASCAR Hall of Fame has had a lot to do with that. The new NASCAR president, Steve Phelps, has had a lot to do with that. That's the only reason North Wilkesboro Speedway is back open instead of just sitting there. So I say all that to say this. The people that own North Wilkesboro Speedway, this is Speedway Motorsports Incorporated. These are the people that learned under the tutelage of great promoters like Humpy Wheeler and Bruton Smith. And so the folks that own that racetrack, they did not wait on any word from NASCAR. They just put out a press release. Have we found a moonshine cave? And then went to social media. Have we found a moonshine cave?
Brian Call knows this folklore well. He's the son to Willie Clay Call, the man known for running illegal spirits with Junior Johnson. He says this discovery is history coming full circle.
I'm sure if they was, my dad Willie and Junior Johnson probably had something to do with. That's for sure.
And next thing you know, everybody's calling me going, hey, McGee, did they find a moonshine cave? And oh, by the way, what's a moonshine cave?
Last thing I'll ask you, Ryan, for you as a friend and as somebody I know is passionate about history, passionate about where you come from, never mind the journalism. What was it like just as an American to be able to report this story, to be there and to see a place that you had looked at with your eyeballs yourself growing up get the due that it deserved in terms of its place in our rightful story?
Well, listen, man, one of the most heartbreaking parts of my job, aspects of my job, was driving past that racetrack over the last 20 years and watching it just rust apart. I mean, it was like going to an old shipyard and watching, the old Navy ships they don't want anymore just rust apart and disappear into the ocean. That's what North Wilkesboro Speedway is doing. And to see it wake back up, what I really want to do is I want to go back. I wish Junior Johnson was still here because no one would get a bigger kick out of this than him. And he's the one that stood there in 1999 and drove me and the late great Tom Higgins, the godfather of the NASCAR Media Center, drove us around in his pickup truck, Junior did. And we went out to the racetrack that had been sitting empty 4 years, was falling apart. And he said to us, they'll never race here again. But let me tell you about when I built 1,000 stills in these mountains. And let me tell you about how you make moonshine. And let me tell you about, when all the stills that were around this racetrack. And at one point, he said, the biggest problem we had, Ron, was where did we put all that whiskey? Where do you put it? And in fact, his father had the biggest land-based bust in the history of moonshine was in Junior Johnson's house when he was 3-4 years old. I mean, cases and cases and cases hidden in all the bedrooms. And that was the problem. What are you going to do with it until you can sell it? And he pointed at that racetrack, and I forgot about it until I went through my notes. He pointed at that racetrack, and he said, you just put it wherever you could put it. And now I think back, hell, was he pointing at the racetrack? Because it feels like that's where they were storing the stuff. Now we know, maybe.
God bless America. Thank you, Ryan.
I'm going to go have me some moonshine right now. Clinton, come on down here.
Tell you what, might do the same. I'm Clinton Yates. This has been ESPN Daily. We'll talk to you tomorrow, kiddos.
ESPN Radio, home of the World Series.
The Dodgers are World Series.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-687-5192. That's 800-687-5192. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-687-5192.
Are you annoyingly inattentive? Do you watch a movie and then ask a zillion questions because you weren't paying attention? Do people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should get a mattress from Mattress Firm. They can help anyone sleep. Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale and clearance is happening now. Save up to 60%, plus get a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
From the Wyoming Air Temp Star Weather Center, here's your forecast.
We continue with rain chances off and on throughout our Christmas as temperatures top out in the mid, possibly upper 40s. Tonight, rain will linger and temperatures are down to that 40-degree mark. Tomorrow afternoon should be really nice after the early morning rain moves out. That's your 9 First Warning forecast. I'm meteorologist Cameron Harden.
This report is sponsored by eBay. We all got a thing. Yes, even you. If you love fashion, car parts, trading cards, whatever you're into, it's on eBay. So go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay. Things people love.
From the ESPN 1530 studio. Powered by Madewell Restoration. Greater Cincinnati's roofing and exterior restoration experts. Madewell Restoration.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
I'm Tim McGraw, and I have a challenge for you. Millions of Americans have type 2 diabetes, and I've seen how it impacts people from all walks of life. If you have diabetes, accept my challenge at americasdiabeteschallenge.com.
Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I want to share with you the experience of Donna in Washington. She writes, I got injured about 5 years ago. I was let go when, because of the injury, I couldn't keep up with my schedule. I've tried to find other work, but I'm 68 now. No one wants to hire someone that old. This week is tough, though, because I had to get my tooth fixed. So I only have $10 in my checking account. But it will be okay. I at least have food because of this pantry. Millions of people face hunger. Some every day, just like Donna. The Feeding America network of food banks helps provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
So how are things? Family good?
Yeah, they're doing well.
Well, hey, we missed you at the game last week. Is everything all right?
I just haven't been feeling like me lately.
Hey, you know I'm here for you, right? And there's support too.
That's a cut. Beautiful, fellas. Beautiful. Acting is one thing. Talking about suicide in real life is another.
In the military, you take challenges head on.
And now it's your turn to do the same for our veterans.
Be there for someone you care about.
Learn how you can start the conversation at BeThereForVeterans.com.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section and after Dad's back injury. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Trouble with opioids can start at home with unused medicines such as pills, patches, and syrups. You can remove the risk and protect your family. Find out how at www.fda.gov/drug disposal. This is 1530 WCKY, the 50,000-watt orange and black home of the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's ESPN 1530.
Hello, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Unfortunately, Tony and I aren't spending our holiday together. We're with our families. We're hanging out, and just like most of you, probably just enjoying the holiday. So we're not here today, but good news. We've got a best of edition to play for you, and that is coming up right now.
This is Skyline Chili Cincy 360, about Cincinnati, from Cincinnati. Sponsored in part by Skyline Chili. Stop by Skyline Chili for a 3-way or cheese coney today. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. This is ESPN 1530, Cincinnati's sports station.
The head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats joining us right now, Coach Wes Miller. What's going on, Coach?
Tony, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. First, let me commend you on the win. Congratulations. What I enjoy from someone that grew up in Cincinnati, I know what this game means to so many. And talk about the way that you and your team kind of wrapped yourselves around that. It's one thing to say it's another basketball game, but knowing this city, knowing what this game means, how much did that add into the preparation leading up to the shootout?
Yeah, we've never said that, right? I think when you live here, and you understand like the day-to-day feeling about this game and this community, it's not just another game. I don't think anybody feels that. You feel the gravity of the game, all year, because people talk about it all year. But in terms of preparation and approach, we try to be very consistent regardless of what game's ahead, right? Whether it's the crosstown or another game that you feel the gravity of. So we tried to be very consistent. I do think our players were great in their preparation all week. I think they wanted to win the game in a deep way, and we're a little more focused than probably they'd be on a normal prep week. I think that the challenge for us, Tony, is how do we have that type of focus and preparation all year long.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was something that was good for us last week. Again, I don't want us to be circumstantial, but our guys wanted to win that game badly. And the fact that none of us that have been a part of the game had ever experienced any success in it, we're all competitive. And so it was nice. It was nice to get on the right side of it for once.
the former players that come back and wrap their arms around this program. You talked about it being a family. I thought Dylan Mitchell was great during the game, but I thought he was so good in those moments right after the game in talking about the atmosphere and the environment of this is college basketball. You don't get that everywhere you go. Speak to that a little bit, just the environment and what those guys were able to feel with the crowd and the former players and everyone coming together and making Saturday what it was.
Yeah, we talked about this for the entire tenure we've been here, Tony. Like, this is one of the greatest programs in the history of college basketball. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And you don't have all day for me to get into all of them. But, there's such a history and tradition here. The support is incredible. The amount of people that care and love our program is incredible. But, you get into Fifth Third and there's an atmosphere like that. That is unique and special. Sean Farnham had the game. ESPN had him in, even though it was on ESPN Plus, and he was texting me after the game, like, wow, like that. He does games for ESPN all over the country. He played at UCLA. He couldn't believe the environment. I think people nationally don't even understand how special the environment is for that game. And then how special the environment is in Fifth Third when it's rocking and rolling like that. And as I said after the game, it means the world to us, coaches, players, the people that are participating in the game, and it helps us. It gave us a huge lift when we needed it there in the second half. There was moments like that in the Big 12 last year in Fifth Third as well. My thing for our fans is we appreciate it, we love it, but the more we can do it, the more consistent we do it, the more it's going to help our program.
The way in which you won the game, it's one thing to come out and you shoot lights out and all the shots are falling and you're getting the looks, which it felt like you were getting good looks on the offensive end and you were making them work so hard for their looks on the defensive end. Does something come with the way you won to be able to draw back on that maybe even later in the year of not having your A game, shots not falling, and you keep grinding and you keep working and you find a way to win a game? Is that even more satisfying at times as a coach to win ugly?
I think as a coach, the wins that you value the most, it sounds interesting to probably fans, but the wins you value the most are when, things don't go your way, you don't shoot the ball well, or maybe you turn it over. Because none of us go into the game as coaches and want to turn the damn thing over or want to miss layups or miss free throws. But when some of those things don't go your way, but your team still finds a way to win, I think deep down that, the most important quality is the competitive quality, the togetherness quality of a team. And you have to have that at the highest level to beat a really good team when you don't shoot it well, or you turn it over a bunch, or you miss a bunch of free throws. And we didn't turn it over a bunch. We had 10. I'd like less, but it wasn't like that was the problem. Yeah, we made more free throws than we've been making, but man, we couldn't make layups, Tony. We missed a handful of layups, 4 of them, to be honest. And, we got some really quality looks from 3. Jizzle had a couple really quality looks, from kind of his spot from 10 to 15 feet.
Yeah.
And that stuff wasn't going in, but we kind of dug down and found a way. And I do think that's important for a team to know that they can do that. We were in a similar situation at Villanova a couple weeks ago, and I didn't think that we handled it well. The ball not going in or us not kind of having a great night. And I thought that was a lot of growth for us against Xavier this past Saturday.
There are so many things about Jizzle James' game that I love, and it seems like every big game he rises to the occasion. I don't think in going 0 for 11, I don't think he forced anything. I thought all the shots he got were within the offense. I thought he got great looks. But what I appreciate about Jizzle James from playing the quarterback position and what he's doing at point guard, if you were to flip that game on with 2 minutes left in the game and you don't know any stats, you would have had no idea that he was 0 for 11. His demeanor never changed. He stepped up and made the free throws when need be. How important is that of a leader to have that mentality, no matter what's happened throughout the game, to not show it and to continue to play the same way?
Him and I watched his minutes together already one-on-one, and I basically echoed what you just said to him in my own way. I mean, he's a winner first. He's He's the type of guy you want your foxhole with you in a competitive environment because he's about winning first and foremost. And, he was frustrated with the way he shot the ball, but he didn't let it affect anything else in his game. He just kept competing, kept playing. And how about the way he stepped up and made 2 big-time free throws with the game on the line? So, yeah, listen, we're really fortunate to have Jizzle. He keeps getting better and better and better and better. And, he had a night where there was a lid on it. That's not going to happen much. And the fact that we won when that happened is a good sign for our team.
I know you could point out so many good individual performances of what guys were able to do. I thought from Aziz Bandaogo was one of the best I've seen him in a Bearcat uniform. He, on the season, is only playing around 24, 25 minutes a game. You guys went at 31 minutes. And in the second half late, he's diving into the stands. He's diving into the bleachers. He's keeping possessions alive. He's highly efficient from the field. How good was that, Aziz? And how much is that able to duplicate to help your guys' team going forward with what he was able to do?
Yeah, Tony, I felt like our guys played their hearts out collectively as a group.